Hi friends! Today we're going to look at adding and subtracting fractions with common denominators. So let's remember what this word means. Common means it's the same. Denominator is the bottom number. So in this example, 13 is the denominator. In this example, 4 is the denominator. So let's take a closer look at these ones. When I think about 3/4 minus 1/4, I first want to make sure that my denominators are, in fact, the same. I have to make sure that they are compatible. So they are. Great. Then what I can do is look at my numerators. 3 minus 1. I have to make sure that I can do these without regrouping. Well, 3 minus 1 is easy. So yeah, I can solve this fairly easily. When I write my answer, I'm going to draw my fraction, and my denominator is just going to stay the same. My numerator is the answer to this equation. So think about 3 minus 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. So 3/4 minus 1/4 is 2/4. But this isn't our final answer. It's the correct value, but there's something we can do. We need to simplify this fraction. So what can I divide both the top and the bottom by? Well, hopefully you can see that I can divide them both by 2. And when I do that, 2 divided by 2 equals 1, 4 divided by 2 equals 2. So my answer, simplified, is 1/2. So I wanted to point that out, that it's really important that we simplify any answers we have. Let's look at this other question. 9/13 plus 5/13. So again, are the denominators the same? Well, yeah, they are. Okay, so when that's true, we're going to keep the bottom the same, 13. Now we're going to look at the top values. 9 plus 5, because this is addition. So 9 plus 5 is 14. So our answer is 14/13. But again, we need to remember that we should simplify. So when we have what is called a improper fraction, where the top is larger than the bottom, we have to figure out how we can simplify this fraction. And the way that we simplify is we ask ourselves, how many times does 13 go into 14? So really what we're asking is, can I divide 13 into 14? How many times does it go in? Well, 13 goes into 14 one time, and if I subtract, I have one left over. But my answer, this number here, becomes the numerator of my new problem, the 1, and the bottom has to stay the same as what I originally had. It has to stay this 13 value. So my answer, if I simplify this, let me write it down here. 14 over 13 becomes 1 whole and 1 over 13. All right, let's look at 2 more examples. So our first example over here has a denominator of 7, 10/7 plus 5/7. So I know right away that my answer is going to have a denominator of 7. That can be consistent. Denominator of 7. Now I'm just going to look at my numerators, and I see it's addition. So really I'm just thinking, what is 10 plus 5? 15. So my numerator becomes 15. But hopefully you can see and remember that we need to simplify. So remember, if the top is bigger than the bottom, we need to simplify. So we're going to ask ourselves the same question. How many times does 7 fit inside of 15? And if you want to write it out, basically what you're doing is saying 7 goes into 15. The other way to think about this is 15 divided by 7. And I'm going to leave that up there because those two things are synonymous. Okay, well, 7 goes into 15 2 times, which is 14. And when I subtract, I have 1 left over. So remember, this remainder becomes the numerator. That's the 1. And the denominator is the original denominator. I can't change it, right? It's still that 7. I'm going to circle it in red. It's still that 7. That doesn't change. So I have 1/7 left over. So my final answer is 2 and 1/7 for that problem. All right, let's move on to the next one. So, are my denominators the same? Check. Yes, they are. 16 and 16. So I know my answer is going to be 16. Now I'm going to focus on the top. 15 minus 7. All right, so we're just thinking 15 minus 7. 15 minus 7 is 8. So my numerator is 8. But hold on. Can I simplify? Let's go back and think. Yes, I can. So I'm going to rewrite it down here. 8 over 16. What can I divide both the top and the bottom by? Well, if you don't know, you could at least start with a 2. I can divide them both by 2. And I would get 4 and 8. Could I do that again? Sure. I could divide both the top and the bottom by 2 again, and I could get 2 over 4. Now we're getting as smaller and smaller and smaller. We want to go as small as we can. And 2/4, just like we did prior, is equal to 1/2. Now you could have seen that from the beginning. You could have gone back, let me erase this bit, from the beginning, and you could have said, well, I see right away that I could divide them both by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. 16 divided by 8 is 2. So even if you take the shortcut or the long way, you're going to end up with the same answer.